Kartik Pine's art is an expressive gesture in colors, forms, and shapes. At the core, the artist is an introvert. He confesses that the world of reality does not attract him when he sits in front of the canvas. He is almost alien to the usual materialistic pursuits. Born to a wealthy zamindar family, he enjoyed an early life of leisure and pleasure. As a young child, Kartik loved to paint. An elder brother one day brought him art materials, which inspired him further to paint. Young Kartik was intrigued to see cartoons and other illustrations in magazines, like the contemporary Bharatbarsho and Bosumati. But he never felt the urge to copy anything. When he was a student in the city collegiate school, a neighbor agreed to teach him the art of painting. Kartik eventually went on to the Government College of Art and Craft, where he was fully trained. After graduation, he could devote all his time to painting because there was no pressure to earn a living. Like many of his peers, Kartik Pine realized in his youth that one had to find a path of one's own. An artist, after all, is nothing more than an imitator of nature. His credibility lies in his discovery of the route to fulfillment. Initially, landscapes fascinated him. During his residence at different addresses in and around Kolkata, the young artist became involved in different aspects of human psychology. Books and spirituality became his favorite. Kartik Pine came to see the flow of human life in his own way. The intricacies of human behavior also attracted him at this point. The artist is unpretentious in his conviction that he has no control over the final effect of a painting. Often, the canvas seems far from the world known to us. It exudes an air of fantasy. The reason is that the artist may start somewhere and then travel creatively to somewhere else. It is an ongoing process. Kartik Pine has always chosen to live as he wished all the time. In 1980, he took up a small job of art teaching at the Academy of Fine Arts in Kolkata. Before that, he taught at the Indian Art College. When we wanted to know if his art was abstract, he said, "No, I have the freedom to get lost anywhere. More than realism or abstraction, an artist needs to be honest, educated and hard-working. Also, you have to understand the psychology of the people to become an artist. After all, you are dealing with human material." When asked how much he cared for his audience, he replied, "Not much. I do not paint to impress others." When questioned whether paintings should have content, he revealed, "Again, it's not relevant at all to have a theme. There is no determinant for colors or ornamentation. The cardinal factor is the experience. Do I share the experience in the honest way?" over India and abroad today as a front-rank painter, Karthik Pine unfortunately is stuck to his little room in the north of the city because of major physical ailments. Yet, the mellowed eyesight picks up the right shade and the right images grow, even though the body does not cooperate. Karthik Pine refuses to be cowed down by old age and turns his back on his sickness. An optimist forever, he is trying to extract the best of whatever is left. In his family, with his wife and 3 children, Karthik Pine is still the master. The strange forms on his canvas are evocative of positivist thinking, dreams that never die. The art of painting is neither momentary nor stable. To the painter Ganesh Haloi, it is a process of continuous happenings, neither in the image nor in its reflection, but in a cultivation of one's own world. It connects with the pain of departure and separation. Art ultimately leads to reunion with wholeness and delight. One of the foremost artists of Bengal today, Ganesh Haloi, indeed does not want his works to be statements of any kind. To him it is a revelation of the self. One has to create a dialogue within oneself to bring out the truth. Truth that has no subjugation to reality. Haloi was born in 1936 in what is now Bangladesh and studied applied art between 1951 and 1956 at the Government College of Art and Craft, Kolkata. His career as a painter shot off from a job in the Archaeological Survey of India. They posted him in the Ajanta caves as a copyist. After a 7-year stint in the distant and isolated environs of rural Maharashtra, Haloi came to join the Government College of Art and Craft, Kolkata as a teacher. He stayed here for 29 years. It was a slow and steady rise. The training was fully under the British academic method. Although a faculty member in the Applied Art Department, the young aspirant had the good fortune to watch and learn from famous painters like Gopal Ghosh, Basanta Ganguly, Jagadish Rai and others. Watercolor was his love. Hallui was also fond of working in portraits, compositions and other styles. Landscapes in particular fascinated the young mind. The slice of the space to be selected, the different hues, the positioning of the objects like the trees correctly, all these made him think about the truth that they are made of. Although his entire working life was spent in Kolkata, memories of the village where he was born, the flavor and the ambience of his native place, remained with the artist. Whenever he sat to paint, the Ajanta murals haunted him no less. The human forms there are real, yet above our cognizant reality. How did the artist create it? I have done human forms, but found it easier to touch the extra-realistic truth in nature, says Hallui, when asked why his paintings do not portray any known images. All his life, the artist has been striving to touch the inner reality, which also is truth to him. I am not here to make a statement. Many artists want to make reformative remarks through their images. If someone has fallen, I try to life him up instead of painting him. According to such observations, the approach of the artist seems rather non-verbal. Hallui's paintings, as they appear one after another, speak of silence and poise. They originate, however, from profound understanding of the movement of life. Referring to the series he had done in Rajasthan, he says, "When you go to a place, say a desert or a river, you have a feeling. When you enter a room, you have another. How do you express them in art? Of course, not in literal terms." At least that is what his paintings exemplify. Hallui is viewed as an abstract art practitioner. He does not contradict the proposition. My experiences of the objective world are transformed into a different reality in my art. You have to share my feeling when you see them. A seed holds within its core the promise of time and space, of shape and color, of blossom and fruit. In its instinct to break free of the confines towards the fulfillment of its promise lies abstraction. Art to him is not confined to the length, breadth or weight of an object. It has neither a beginning nor an end. It is open neither to question nor to answer. It is the pursuit of the ultimate, but not the ultimate itself. To enter into the matrix of such visuals, one has to stop and think that its correlation with memories and known images is only incidental. I recently went to Jamalpur in Bangladesh to see my native place. The river has shrunken. On its dry bed have grown villages. The embankments crumble in the fading sunlight. His selection of the medium, which is opaque gouache, has a definite purpose. One can go on putting layers of hues to unveil the mystery of the vision that has prompted you to paint. In Haloui's works, black doesn't play a dominant part, except when it is mixed with other shades and applied with transparency. He wants to reach light through darkness. You and I both exist between certainty and uncertainty. Certainty ceaselessly drives us towards uncertainty. Whether it is beautiful or good is never an issue in art. The artist projects himself in the creation. The desire to create is abstraction. It is from this that a world exclusively of his own comes into being. Ganesh Haloui's journey through life as a painter remains constant, beyond and above the duality of forces that control life as a whole. In his free moments, the artist often pens down poetry. In his free moments, the artist often pens down words. Poetry? Maybe. If, as the poet Rimbaud has said, that only the poet has the right to speak the truth. He's not keen on pre-sketching. The written words, some of which are quoted in this commentary, are like a layout of his works. The river said, "I am thirsty. Will you please give me a glass of water?" The ocean responded, "Come to me. I shall give you all." That day, many days ago, one summer afternoon, underneath a banyan tree, I fell asleep. Even today, I sleep. For God's sake, do not break my slumber. Lines such as these abound in his diaries. Art brooks no dishonesty. Its integrity is born from the vibrations of the soul. Ganesh Haloui's paintings possess the quality of the soul. It makes him one among many, a distinct signature in modern Indian art. The arrival of Nikhil Biswas in the art scene of Bengal was meteoric. He was born on the 22nd of April 1930 in Kolkata to a family in extreme financial distress. He died suddenly in 1966. Nikhil's father migrated to the city from Nadia and fought a grim battle for survival. The virus of suffering was passed on to Nikhil with his father's untimely death. What followed was expulsion from the government art college, which he had joined against his mother's will, for insubordination. Acute hardship followed him through the formative stages of his life. The loneliness, possibly following an inner feeling of disquiet, made Nikhil rather arrogant, mischievous and upright in his youth. From the beginning, his art reflected his mindset. His art was mostly created by harsh, black strokes of the brush, and smudgy surfaces, which carried images of muscle men in action and stomping stallions. After his father's death, the family income dropped to nil. The future artist opened a pan shop in the locality, which he called Hara's Pan Shop, after his nickname. Despite a very bleak situation all around, Nikhil fell in love and got married. Finally, he survived the onslaught of ill luck by getting a small teaching job at the Mitro institution in Bhawanipur. The material reality never affected the artist's passion. He could produce like a machine. It counted up to thousands of paintings, sketches and oils. His watercolors defied the maladies of existence. Nikhil's painting habit coalesced with his reading and writing habit. An unusual feature for a practicing painter, the huge collection of his writings, including some fine poetry, is now stored with his heirs. Here is a phenomenal instance of Nikhil's thirst for knowledge and penchant for widening the horizons of expression. The most interesting aspect, however, is his academic inclinations, as much as his artistry, constantly alleviated Nikhil's extremely positive and dynamic view of life. There neither was any deviation from the basics of art, like structure, chromatic details, or drawing. It could be a pretty landscape or a big, mind-blowing oil on paper. The attention to grammatical justice never faltered. We can broadly separate his works into three archetypes. The first is the human form. The second is in his depiction of animals. And the third is in sundry images of landscape, architecture, or clowns. The clown images, which he had sketched in hundreds in his small notebooks, have a haunting similarity with those of Picasso. But why did he choose clowns? Was it because Nikhil was intrigued by the inherent humor that life provides to every one of us? Was it just a matter of rhythmic form with a strange headgear? There are female forms too. These may be put into type 2. The bare-breasted women remind you of the Ajanta murals and the tradition of classical Indian art. The muscled males relate you to Michelangelo or Da Vinci. The spectrum was the whole human heritage of art, as well as the immediate reality. Hunger, oppression, exploitation of the weaker by the stronger had come to Nikhil in the shape and form of visual tension, and not as an objective correlative like it had come to the artists of the Calcutta group. They had narrated famine. Nikhil was not living through it historically. He recorded the vibrations of the burning that takes place in the stomach. The body of Nikhil's work exudes ambivalence, a duality. On the one hand, he was exiled into a life of harsh reality and found great artistic relief in venting the angst. On the other, he was a dreamer, a cool observer to whom the glare of the pearl was as much precious as the pearl itself. The visuals in this profile bear testimony to the fact that agony was his soul mate. Personal miseries, the striving for an ideal imagistic expression, which would be his signature, and of course, an anti-establishment attitude became components of his distress, dismay, and disillusionment. A closer view of Nikhil's art also reveals ecstasy in its purest form. He was an integral part of the new art movement that was coming up after the independence. He was exceptionally eager about a new language of art that the contemporary experience demanded. His brief stint with the Society of Contemporary Artists, Kolkata, and his fancy for rendezvous with people of any class marks his commitment to life. Above everything else stood his family. The darkness in his paintings glow unmistakably, like sunshine, because the mind was without fear and the head was held high, even in the darkest moments. Success came his way shortly before his untimely death. Nikhil Biswas was recognized by the cultural elite, and that began the comforting face of prosperity. Halle Museum in Germany has a collection of his works. The artist was about to set sail for Europe on an exhibition tour when the cruel moment of departure came. Dead or alive, in the presence of a painting, the artist can never be measured by the flux of time if he has the true potential. His physical absence, of course, makes a difference. The Herculean power and the fiery imagination of the artist will always leave us with sadness at his early departure from an art world to which he could have given so much more. Amitabh Banerjee's creative life spans more than half a century and contains the slow unfolding of an extraordinary vision. As an artist, Amitabh has never denied his roots, never submitted to the lure of success and accomplishment. He has worked for an American government agency for quite some time, traveled around the world, but has never surrendered his own private convictions for contemporary fads and fashion. Banerjee is ranked among one of the best exponents of representational art in India. Even in his graphics, which strongly reveals the direct influence of the Americans, the artist never departs from the narrative and the literal. Amitabh was born in a tiny island named Shondip, now in Bangladesh. There was no childhood dream to become a painter. His grandmother used to paint. Her company was the inspiration. An uncle came from Kolkata when Amitabh was only 13 years old. He first instilled the idea of painting in the young boy's mind. The sight of colors flowing over white paper was fascinating. Later, when they came to live in Kolkata, Amitabh joined the Government Art College. But his parents were not exactly thrilled that the young boy was trying to take up art as a career. From his early youth, Amitabh had to do illustrations and designs for local publishers to meet his personal expenses. In his third college year, he started painting cinema banners and hoardings and continued to do so for quite some time. In 1952, he completed the art course and joined the United States Information Service in Kolkata as an illustrator. In 1970, he became a member of the Society of Contemporary Artists, the only significant art fraternity in the region. In the same year, an opportunity came to join a major graphics workshop in Delhi, sponsored by the Smithsonian Institute in Washington. Graphics was his subsidiary subject in art college. Now it became a passion. After a day's hard work at the USIS, the artist retreated to his studio and stood for long hours in front of his machine to take out prints. This went on for years, leading to the National Award for Graphics in 1981. Now, old age poses a hindrance to working at the machine. but his spirit is indomitable. Both in his prints and his paintings, the artist creates concrete imagery. I do not understand abstract art, says the artist. Neither do I like it. In all my artworks there is a specific theme. The tree, the bird, the woman. Between each object there is a link and a storyline. The artist believes that there should be a statement in every piece. The background should relate itself to the object. The characters in his works belong to his own times. Of course, the viewer will not be able to directly relate them with the contemporary experience. But then, what is the artist if he is not an interpreter of life? Asks Amitabha. Art does not reproduce life as it is. It extends, it elevates, answers the artist. Events in the world outside, like the great Calcutta killings in his case, left a deep impact on his creative mind. Perhaps this dark experience has worked into the melancholy of the characters in his art. Amitabha always tries to touch the elemental human reality through his images.
I am automatically a person who is a bit romantic. So that is why my most, I won't say all, most of my paintings are little romantic. And that I always say or tell people or my visitors or whoever questions me that this is my nature, I am a romantic person.
A deep romantic feeling acts as the catalyst when he translates life's experiences into art. Amitabha has never hesitated to declare himself a complete romantic. Not much of nature is evident in his works, except such scenes. Possibly his penchant for human situations has distracted his attention from nature. Today the artist lives alone after the death of his wife, another artist. His works decorate art locations all over India and abroad. an optimist to the core, and a visionary, the artist does not fumble when he says that his mission is not to reach anywhere. His journey is more important than his destination. Prakash Kormukar, the much debated maverick in the world of visual arts. We met him at his home in a suburb of Howrah. The meeting turned out to be a story of breaking rules and statements that shock, soothe, and seek an extended reality. No concerted art movement had ever taken place in India. Rabindranath Tagore advised the artists of his time to come out of their cliched courtyard of culture and to look forward to the future.